welcome back to the Massive Impact Podcast, episode 013. Really excited about today's guest. We go back several years. Just doing some research this morning in preparation for the show. He has 23,000 followers on LinkedIn. That caught me by surprise. He is the CEO of not just C-Level Partners, but also of Reinoso Global, and he is always leveling up. He's the author of the book Don't Admire, Acquire: How to Cultivate Excellence in Sales and in Life. He speaks authoritatively, but listens empathetically. He's a multiplier, and he is hands down one of the best communicators that I know, and I know a lot of people. Johnny Lee Reinoso, welcome to the show. How are you?
My man, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I was getting excited during the show prep this morning. We're going to take our listeners behind the scenes. So listen, on this podcast, we talk about people, products, services that, in my opinion, add massive value, right? Hence, massive impact. You are certainly one of those people that I have intersected with in my career, and you have such a unique niche. And people, at least I never thought about cold calling strategies and cold calls and all those things that are just kind of behind the scenes for most people. I've had onto this show experts from distribution, supply chain, manufacturing, sales, right? You name it. However, I've never had somebody with your specific skill set, and I'm excited to dig in. So are you ready?
Yes, let's rock and roll. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Not only have I, learned more about you since, gosh, I don't know, we met, 2017, 2018 or so,
Yep.
pre-COVID, but I've actually used your services. So, I feel like this is a genuine endorsement of you on this call, on this show today. But I want to open it up starting with, what is C-Level Partners and Reinoso Global?
Got it. Yeah, so I'll take you back kind of full circle. So in 2000 my first real professional, what I call job, if you will, I was very young, but I got into the financial side of things. I was in real estate finance. And I thought I found my career. I thought this was it. This is what we're going to do. I knew what I wanted to do at a very young age. I knew I wanted to make a lot of money. I knew I wanted to bring a lot of value. And I knew I wanted to get married young and have kids young. That's kind of those things that always kind of stuck with me. So I got the married young and the kid young thing done. And the making a lot of money, I was trying to understand where I was going to go. Got into finance, real estate finance, and I was making a lot of money. So I was like, okay, cool. I got this right. It's easy. I'm just going to ride this and continue to enjoy life. And I was a young up and comer. I was crushing it. 4,000 man company, 1,000 sales reps, became the top sales rep after almost 6 months of being there. So I realized, okay, sales is my thing. I love sales. I've been selling forever. No matter what the product or service is, I can make it happen. So I was in that space for a little bit. And then long behold, again, at a very young age, I learned, there's this thing called the market. And there's this thing called, the shifts in market, and things happen, and the crashes and the booms. So then the real estate market started crashing. By then I already relocated to South Florida, but the market started really crashing 2007, 2008. And I left the real estate finance. I had to literally lay off and let go of a handful of people that reported to me, a sales team, an underwriting team, and then I decided what's next. Long story short, got into management consulting. And I was 26 when I joined, 25, 26 when I joined the firm. And I was kind of laughed at first because I was told, I want to go out in the field and sell our services. And they're like, you? No. I mean, you have to have salt and pepper here, a scratched up Mont Blanc and Rolex before you can tell another executive across the table how ugly their baby is, right? So you're not going to do that. But you're so persistent, we'll give you a chance. Fine, hit the phones. Now, I'm an outside guy. I'm not a phone guy. I always thought that, right? That I'm a relationship guy. I'm a shake hands guy. I'm a get to know you guy. I can't do it by phone. So I took the challenge though because I knew I wanted to get in this space. I wanted to learn what this was all about. And I wasn't an Ivy League grad, none of that. So I had to figure it out. And I knew I couldn't just go join one of the big four, big five type firms. So this kind of boutique-ish, what I would call like an ex McKinsey, ex Cap Gemini type firm picked me up and said, okay, hit the phones. I'll give you a chance. After a few months of struggle, I realized, wait a minute, there's something here, right? And I'll talk about the methodology after. But I was told by my business coach at the time, yes, I had one very young in age. I always valued the idea of investing in yourself, right?
Mhm.
So people think about investing in yourself means, or pay yourself 10%, and they think you put that in the bank all the time. Yes, that's great. Put it in your bank, compound interest, the idea of compounding, all that makes sense. But what about taking a sliver of that also and investing in yourself, right? Your craft, your art, your desires, your goals. So I did that and I had this business coach and he laughed at me one day. He's like, Johnny, you got to stop this idea that just because you're in person, you're one person. And then when you're on the phone, you have to be another person. No, be yourself on the phone. Be authoritative, be hungry, be committed, be enthusiastic. So I started putting all this down, and a few things happened at the time. And during that week, talking to my wife, not paying attention to her because I'm ADD, so I'm not listening correctly. Not that I don't want to, but it's just the thing, right? You don't listen to everything they say. So she was like, "You have to listen more. Listen, right? Listen empathetically, so you could understand." So all these things was happening, and then all of a sudden, there comes the birth of the methodology: speak authoritatively, listen empathetically.
Love
S
that.
E transition, was in this management consulting firm and started crushing it with that concept. First deal was I called the CEO of a consumer goods company. I was told at the time, just tell them you want to send information via fax. And then from there, if they're interested, we want to have a meeting with them. This was 2008, right? Fax.
Wow. Wow.
I said, but if I have the CEO on the phone, why can't I just schedule the meeting?
Yeah.
Uh, no, because we want to just, they want you to just send the information. I was like, no, 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 no. So I get the CEO on the phone, have a conversation. It's a pretzel manufacturing company. I get the CEO on the phone. I laugh and I say, number one, I'm ecstatic that you just got on the phone with me here. I thought I was going to get your voicemail or your assistant. He says, well, I could pass you through. I said, no, no, no. I want you to know that you're the reason why I gain between 1 to 3 pounds every month because I'm addicted to the pretzels, right? And he laughed. And I knew I had him, right? Boom.
Hmm.
That led to a meeting that led to a $6.7 million operational improvement. Um, what's the point? The point is that cold call was the birth with the methodology of it's possible.
Yeah.
Took the firm from 10 million to over 118 million in revenue, left the firm, started C-Level Partners. So what is C-Level Partners? Why that backstory?
Hmm.
Is that Les Brown was speaking in the Georgia Dome, and I listened to that audio many a times in the past. And he talks about how the greatest place on earth, the richest place on earth, um, the most uh, valuable place on earth. People start thinking mines, the minerals, all these, earth, precious metals. He says it's the cemetery.
Mm.
I said, I'm listening to him talk, right? And he's speaking, and I'm listening, and he says, because that's where you have all the dreams that have never been accomplished, all the
Wow.
goals that have never been accomplished, all the missions that have never been yet never started, the marriages that never united because he never asked and she never spoke. Um, the cures for cancer, the cures for illnesses because they never had the audacity to step forward to go raise the business, the companies, the tens of thousands of employments, that opportunity they could have offered to our citizens and to the world, but because they never went and got funding, they never went and pitched, they never went and gained capital, they never went and learned. But their dream and their vision was so real that if they just matched that with the right action, oh boy, could we have more GEs, more Apples, more Teslas, more everything of the world. And that got me very emotional one week when I was listening to this because I was at a crossroads with a few things happening personally of doing this or doing that. But what happened was going here, going there, staying in the industry, going somewhere else. But when I listened to that, and then that same week, Harvard Business Review published an article that said 70 some odd percent of the United States is employed, which is always an argument between 70 something to 80 something, is employed by medium to small businesses. So if it wasn't for the medium to small businesses, 80% of America wouldn't be employed. Are you kidding me? Nobody thinks about that on a frequent basis, right? It's your local pizza joint, it's your local pharmacy, it's your local auto body, it's the local marketing firm. So then that led me to another thing that I was reading that said the number one reason why people fail in business is sales. But the underlying reason to that is that they don't even have the opportunity to have the at bat. You might have a perfect pitch, you might have a perfect product, but guess where they fail is that at bat, that one meeting. And I said, oh, thank you, Lord. You just spoke to me.
Nice.
My dream and my passion and my desire is always to become an entrepreneur and to build something that builds value to the marketplace, that brings joy to people, that brings the idea of hope and that it's possible. And if I could work with entrepreneurs who have that innate desire to want to be and become and do more, then that's my mission. I always want to give back to the country who's given my parents everything. They came here from other countries. My mother's from Portugal, father from Peru, and I love the United States. It's everything to me. We're the greatest nation, regardless what anybody thinks, what anybody goes through, right? Whatever what political party people lean on. So my whole point is that I'm like, here's a way that I can help the driving force of America, medium to small businesses, become more, do more, and grow to help the citizens of this country to gain purpose and to gain value in the marketplace by becoming professionals in their craft. And I can stop the bleeding, or I can at least instill an injection of hope to a CEO. If he could just meet with me to allow me to tell him, don't give up. We could get you the meeting with that executive. We could get you in front of the CEO of Unilever. We could get you in front of the COO at Pepsi. We could get you in front of the EVP of supply chain at Georgia Pacific, because this is what we do for a living. And if you get in front of them, you're telling me your value of service could be of great value to them. Guess what? Well, we'll make sure that you have those opportunities in a consistent basis. And that was the methodology of sale as we translated to a sales training on the phone with our team, the birth of C-Level Partners. So I've had the pleasure for 11 years now to work with a variety of different industries and organizations, literally helping directly founders and CEOs. We work from startup to, we have clients that do around one client does 9 billion a year. So from startup, right, which is pure VC backed or bootstrap startup, all the way through multi-billion-dollar organizations, helping them, really go to market and be an extension of their front end, right? So that they're always growing. So we're excited about that. Now, with that, a few years into C-Level Partners, a lot of organizations that we were working with started saying, look, we're building our own internal capabilities, or look, I just left this company that you were working me with. I want you to come here, but we have our own team. Can you help them? And that was the birth of Reinoso Global, which is sales training, sales coaching. So it was executive coaching and sales training. And it kind of all even stayed under the guise of also kind of motivation, right? I love making sure that, and it's twofold, because people think like, oh man, isn't it like sometimes, a little bit too much when you're always telling people to go? No, because the more I share and reinvigorate a leader, a CEO, a founder to go and do more, become more, and live their full potential, the more I get out of it. So I almost feel, for lack of better words, embarrassed that I have to charge for this too, because yes, it's my time, but boy, do I get so much out of it. My wife says, please do not have sales coaching calls after like 3:00, because you come home and it's like you're off the wall running around. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's our pleasure. It's our joy. It's what I do. And anyways, long-winded, but I wanted to make sure I gave you that full picture of
I
what it is.
love that. That is so powerful. I didn't realize the complementary nature of your two. companies and how it sort of spun off and evolved. You probably just answered 13 other questions, but that was great. I love the passion. Going back to, the whole cold call experience and you being a rookie in that story, um, was there an epiphany? Like, was there a light bulb moment for you when you said, aha, this really could be something? Was it a moment or was it a progression, kind of an evolution?
Um, it was, the moment became real when I was able to understand what my sales coach was trying to tell me, my business coach, my mindset coach, if you will, kind of all in one, which was this notion that, um, and he didn't say it exactly this way, but this is how I interpret it today. You know, fear is the greatest limiting factor. Fear is the greatest thing and the greatest reason why people don't take action. And it's all about the meaning we give the situation. So I was just speaking with a very successful entrepreneur in the management consulting arena just before this meeting here, this podcast. And I asked him, he has sold hundreds of millions of dollars in consulting services. Hundreds. One client in and of itself over 80 million. And I asked him, what's the key to success? What's the key? And it really boils down to all things in sales, like I always do in all my training. I wanted him to explain it in his words because he was there directly responsible for selling, like I said, over 80 million just with one account. And he said, it's being able to speak across the table with a high level executive in a way that allows them to understand that you're peers and combine that with the ability to share relevant stories that meet them at their needs or that speak to their needs. So when you think about the sales training that we do with speak authoritatively, listen empathetically, I always say sales is 80% psychology, 20% mechanics. So going into these cold calls, a lot of people in cold calling rather, they go in with this idea that, oh my God, but who am I calling? A corner office, high level executive, all of these things, all of these, unbelievable accomplishments, I'm interrupting his day. So that's all true if you're not bringing any value.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to say to you, Patrick, at your organization, you guys bring extreme value to the manufacturing sector, right, as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
You reduce cost, you create efficiency, you improve uptime, you improve throughput, you eliminate waste. You ultimately do what? You impact the bottom line in a
Right.
sustainable manner. Ultimately doing what? Driving growth within that organization, which ultimately translate to what? Sustainability within the employment, maybe even an opportunity of becoming more within their
Mm-hmm.
organization because now the company has more capital to reinvest, maybe expansion of hiring more people. So all of these what? Good things. So my approach is shame on me, shame on you if you're cold calling that you're not speaking in a way that creates so much desire and so much conviction when you're speaking to this person because they have to understand the value you bring. But only you could be the one that could share that with enthusiasm and confidence. Nobody else is going to speak confidently about your business but you.
Mm-mm.
Who else is going to do it more than you? So it is your duty, not your job. It is your obligation, not your should. It's your must. People should themselves to death. So when you go into the conversations with these kind of cold calls, you got to do it from a place of no. I'm calling to help you do, become, grow, and exceed expectations, especially shareholders.
Yep.
That's the value I'm bringing to you. I'm not interrupting your day. I'm blessing your day. I'm not interrupting your week. I'm blessing your week. I'm not lucky to get you on the phone. You're lucky that I got through. That's my approach for all our clients. That's the approach we bring with our team. So it's all about that. When you focus on that, then all of a sudden you sit back and you go, wait a minute. I have to be convincing when I get this person on the phone. I can't just be asking, right? It's a different way. You dominate, you don't compete, right? In terms of that expression and that approach.
Yeah, and I like your wording, empathetically, not apologetically. There's nothing to apologize about. Actually, I would encourage everyone to listen to episode 012 because I spoke on many of those things, just the nature of what you do, the value you bring. And I use those words. Actually, it's funny you said those on the heel of that podcast. It is our duty. It is literally our duty because we are helping them. So I love that. No, that was a great synopsis. Um, I'm fascinated by the cold call portion of your business. Okay. I want to dig in a little bit more. I think a lot of people probably, if you were to ask them to participate, and I did it for a short period of time, um, they probably would cringe, right? How do you help somebody that wants to do it or they think they want to do it? How do you help them past that mental block?
Yeah, so the first thing is to eliminate fear by making sure that you create the right level of relationship with that emotion. So remember, um, you know, what we feel and what we create in terms of fear, let's say,
Mhm.
it's the meaning we're giving that situation. So
100%.
so the meaning that that person is giving that situation is creating fear. Now, what do I mean by that meaning? It's there are some people that their meaning is, oh my gosh, this is a juvenile thing to do. Who am I to do this? I'm not going to cold call. And I go, okay, then if you're a single shingle individual, if you're a startup, if you're a new company, if you're a founder, or if you're strapped for capital, good luck, right? I mean, are you going to let yourself, I always go back to when you're sitting in that rocking chair and you're 75 years old, and if you have all your widgets, are you going to go back and think and say, if only I didn't have that, you know, that ego mindset, and
Mhm.
I was more humble and I made cold calls, where would my business be today? Right. So, so so it's like, are you seriously? So Gestalt therapy talks about making fun of a situation so your mind could reprogram it. So
Mhm.
I would reiterate that and say, if your business depended on it, are you really so prideful that you're not going to make a cold call? You'll rather go to bankruptcy, fail, go having to work for the man again in case you're an entrepreneur, let's say, because you can't make a phone call? Is that seriously what you're breaking it down to? Are we that dumb? So
Right.
there's always ways of getting our mindset right, because remember, that's the first step, right? It's the
Sure.
mindset, right?
Sure.
Our beliefs, they dictate our actions.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure that we believe that this is the right thing to do, right? Now, going back to the belief is the value you bring. So going back to reiterating, what's the value? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What's your core focus? What do you want to accomplish? What is it that you guys do? And when it comes from a place of love, a place of empathy, a place of, and I say love not to be cliche, not to be tongue in cheeky here, love because you love what you do. You love to bring value. When it comes from a place
Sure.
of love, that comes out in how you articulate your services. Very much different than when it comes from a place of a sweaty palm salesman trying to make a dollar, right?
Agree. Yeah.
People care about business and about their business, about your business, but their business together and the magic that could happen together, right? So, first, overcoming your mindset. Second is then having true conviction, right, in what
Mhm.
you're articulating. People think they have to learn how to be convincing. And
Mhm.
I always say, no, no, no. You first have to be convinced
Yeah.
before you can be convincing. So are you convinced? Once they are convinced, then you go into, okay, who am I dialing? Now comes mindset again. Mindset why? Because people think, let me dial the executive assistant because that's the right thing to do, right? To be core,
Mhm.
to be respectful.
Respectful.
No, 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 no. No one said calling him or her in the corner office is disrespectful.
No.
You're just trying to take path of least resistance again.
Right.
Yes, it's nice to follow the chain of command and the pecking order or whatever you want to say. But if you have access to their direct information, reach right out to them. Now, I have their email and I have their mobile number. Should I send an email or a mobile number? No. Cold call them first. Cold call them first. Then send an email, then cold call them again. I always say cold call because that's the magic. Just like we're in sales, it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
A bad thing to be in sales. It's a good thing to cold call. So you cold call the executive. Well, and then again, if people get nervous around that, it's because they don't know what to say, right? So we talk about a lot of what are we saying? Articulating value is all about the ability to share a story, which is allowing you to disarm your prospect. So
Mm-hmm.
the focus is not to sell your service. The focus is to disarm and schedule a next call. So people always think, oh, I got the person on the phone. Let me share everything I could to try to get them to then, want to buy from me. No, no, no. That's not the idea. The idea is to disarm them. How do you disarm them? You're a peer to peer. You're having great conversations. You're great dialogue. You're leading them to a next call. You know what, Patrick? I really love the conversation we're having here. And, as I shared with you, we're doing a lot of work with leaders like yourself in the industry, specifically around, reducing waste, which impacts the bottom line very much sustainably, creating that shareholder value that we all look for within organizations. So, look, I know I just caught you out of the blue here. Um, I'm running into another meeting myself, but the reason for my call is I wanted to find an hour of time where you and I can really dive into more about our value and our services and how we've been able to work with leaders like yourself again, but also understand more about your business. If we could do that, maybe, I don't know if, you know what, actually looking at the calendar, tomorrow I have an hour in the afternoon. Something moved on me. If not, we could do it on Thursday, right? Don't shoot for next week. Don't shoot for next month. Shoot for tomorrow, right?
Right.
Get it. Time kills all deal. Get it done now, right? Tomorrow. But now it gives you time to prep, time to get ready, time to find areas of opportunity that you can share, right? You could use different research tools to give you the understanding of what you can share with them, your war stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a conversation with them. But the cold call concept is not to sell, to set the next meeting, to set the next conversation, whether it's a demo or call or meeting or Zoom or Teams, to speak authoritatively and to listen empathetically. Speaking authoritatively does not mean, Patrick, my name's Johnny. I'm with XYZ company. No, speaking authoritatively is just speaking comfortably, right? But speaking with confidence. Hey, Patrick, Johnny here with C-Level Partners. Hey, I'm hoping you've heard of us before. We've been working with, we've been working with a lot of leaders like yourself for some time now. I hate to be redundant in case you heard of C-Level Partners. And we pause, right? Not, hey, Patrick. Hi, my name's Johnny Lee with C-Level Partners. I know this is a cold call. Can I have 5 minutes of your time? What? Why are we saying that? There's a lot of nonsense out there, and maybe some
Sure.
listeners will go, "Wait a minute," but my company trains me to do it this way. I just heard a cold call the other day where the person says, "Hey, Patrick, this is a sales call, so you could throw the phone out the window now, or you could give me 30 seconds."
Wow.
Like, why would we do anything like this?
Yeah.
And I go back to thinking to myself, if I'm pitching, I don't know, you know, um, the president of a Fortune 500 company, if he's calling somebody, if he's calling an investor, an analyst, somebody he needs to get a hold of, would he say that to somebody? No, he would say,
Mm-mm.
just picture like the president of, I don't know, uh, Pepsi, right? Whatever his name is, the president of Pepsi, and he says, "Hey, my name is, let's just say Michael. Hey, my name is Michael Patrick. I don't know if you heard of me. I'm the president of Pepsi." And you're like, "I'm sorry." You're like, "Yeah, the president of Pepsi. Can I get 30 seconds of your time?" He would just be like, "Yeah, the president of Pepsi. You've never heard of me before?" Oh gosh, well let me back up. You know Pepsi the drink, right? Obviously, it's like that kind of. It's cordial, but it's kind of like, really, you haven't heard? It's the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
having a conversation. Gosh, I thought you maybe have heard of me before. The work that we're doing in the industry, process improvement, cost reduction, really focused on creating operational efficiency within manufacturing. And I didn't want to be redundant in case you have. Let me back up. The reason for my call is I was actually looking at a few things here, and I've been recognizing that in your organization specifically you guys have been growing. Maybe LinkedIn says they've been growing 10 or 15%. Maybe they just acquired a small firm. We see that you guys have been growing not only organically, but also through acquisition. And, we're really excited when we see that because we also know that, with these post merger acquisition challenges, there tends to be complexities that are overlooked that maybe not have an immediate cost, but a long term detriment to the business, to the process, to the execution. I wanted to find a couple minutes in the next several weeks where you and I can have a brief call just to share how we've been able to work with organizations like yours. So, and then you just pause. You don't ask anymore. You don't say, "So how does Thursday?" You pause. And what do you wait for? you wait for the subtle hint
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, okay, sure, no problem. Well, tell me more about what it is you guys do. Or, we already have an organization here, but now you know which way to go. Is it a hard re-engage? Is it a soft re-engage? Is it a transition to calendar? Or is it a, you know, react, which is it's all of it react, which is repeat, empathize, ask, close, and thank them, right? Repeat,
Mm-hmm.
empathize, ask, close, and thank them. That's the acronym react.
Okay.
So you're repeating what they're saying, then in a way, shape, or form, you're asking some more questions, you're closing, and you're thanking them. So if it's like, oh, okay, say, wonderful, Patrick. So looking at the calendar here, I'd love to, actually, tomorrow might be impossible, correct? If not Thursday, because I had something move. Why am I saying that? Even if my calendar is blank, if I say to a high level executive or an executive, how about tomorrow or Thursday? What works for you? Is he or she going to think that you're successful?
Lowering your status.
You're lowering your status. And people think, well, do they have time to process that in their mind? Listen, our subconscious mind does so much for us that it gives them the impression like, wait a minute, this Joe Schmo. I had a guy on my team just the other day have the senior vice president of operations for a multi billion dollar global organization. Got all the way to the calendar, and he did one world thing wrong. He says, I'm going to get you over this calendar invite. What's your email? Oh, everybody who cold calls somebody says at the end, what's your email? He made it sound like we're in industry known, which we are for this client that we had. They're industry known, that they're great, that things are fantastic, that, gosh, shame on you for not knowing us in one way, shape, or form, but very respectful. That, oh, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. Let's go ahead and find some time. So that person felt like, if you're such an industry expert and you're such an industry know-it-all and you're such an industry everything, why is it that now at the end of it all, you're asking me what's my email? Don't you know my email? So
Yep.
another way of reframing what your email is. So Patrick, is it first dot last, or is the email sequence still the same? No, it's Patrick dot.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's P. Whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's another way of asking. Just like you don't want to start any cold calls with "How are you?" because everybody says "How are you?" Every
Right.
stranger says "How are you?" But if
Yeah.
I say, "Hey, Patrick, how have you been?" It's files in your brain as an area of familiarity. You should know this person. So right away, that person's brain is going like this when you say, how have you been? When you follow that with, hey, I'm hoping you might have heard of us before, given the work we do in the industry. Pause, wait a few seconds because they're going like this, waiting for
Mm-hmm.
that answer, right? And you say, your organization, in this case, I'd say C-level partners, and they go, oh man. And I go, yeah, also known as CLP. Is that ringing a bell? I'm sorry, I don't know. Now, why do I do that? Do I want to be misleading? Do you want to be misleading? No.
Mm-mm.
Let me ask you a question. Your organization, you guys have been around for some time. No, you've been around for some time as a professional. I know that in the industry of management consulting as a whole, is it impossible to know who you are? No.
Mm-mm.
Should they know who you are? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do email marketing? Do you have LinkedIn? Do you do a lot of kind of, different types of industry publications out there in different ways using social media and whatnot? Of course you do. So is it impossible? No. So should he know? Yes. Why not create that level of doubt inside them so they should? Right. And so it's the same as if you're at the mall, you're at Auntie Anne's getting pretzels. The guy in front of you is wearing a blue t-shirt. You're behind him. The line's taking too long. He turns around. He says, gosh, I'm just trying to get back to the store. I have to get back to my shift. And you look at him and go, I know, it's crazy. And he's like, I know, I can't believe it. And then he says, you say to that person, where do you work? He says, Apple. And you go, oh, is that a fruit stand around here? He's like, no, buddy, Apple. If you follow that with, I'm sorry, I don't know. What's he gonna say? Buddy, Apple, Steve Jobs, your
Sure.
phone, Apple, iMac. Come on, right?
Right. Right.
The same thing, but tone it down and have that level of confidence. Trust
Yeah.
me, the reception's totally different.
So much to unpack there. I mean, I know that we're on a timeline this evening, but wow. I mean, so much to unpack there. Just in your little opening there, I heard these are words that came to my mind. Okay. Research, professionalism, competence, tonality, which we haven't really hit on too much, and timing. And there's probably 6 to 10 more words I could think of. But for the sake of the time of this podcast, maybe we'll do another show later. I want to do some rapid fire questions here.
Yeah,
That
let's
was so good. What kind of stats do you have on success rates or closing rates if you track that?
closing rates in what in cold call to set meeting.
Yeah, to set a meeting. I would consider that a close.
So it's industry specific, and I would call it's market cap driven. So if you say medium to small size companies,
Hmm.
if you'll average 100 phone calls, will average 5 conversations with the leaders. 5 conversations should net you, if you're really good in the space, 2 meetings minimum. 2 meetings minimum.
Okay.
Okay. So we're talking, you know, 50 million to 500 million, maybe a billion even in revenue, right? Um, Traditionally, anything over that, you have to do 150 dials to get 5 people on the phone to get 1.5 meetings, 1.4, 1.5. We try to get 7 meetings a week. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
and we're talking cold calling mobiles and direct dials, not main numbers, right? Mobiles
Okay.
and there's a
Yeah.
lot of science behind that. A lot of
Sure.
science, day, time, when, how to
Oh
do
yeah.
call pattern, all that stuff.
Yeah. No different than, there's an optimal time to post on LinkedIn, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Who is your typical client? I'm not asking for a client name, but what do they look like? What's that profile? And how do they find you or do you find them?
So the ideal typical client, I would say, and this has been a very interesting conversation as of late, but it really encompasses a few things. The ideal typical client is one that is, anything between, like I mentioned earlier, startup to Fortune 500 type organization that has a strong desire and will to go to market in a certain business, geographical location, or with a certain product or service where they're having just the most ridiculous, impossible ways of getting in front of buyers of their services, right? So that's a lot of people in a lot of industries, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
would say then, to surmise that into something more leaner, I would say it's high ticket items where they're willing to invest between 5 to 10% of their customer acquisition cost with an organization like ours, because we're not cheap, but we're unbelievable. Our average is 28 to 1 return for our clients.
I have found that cheap is expensive,
Yeah,
right?
there is.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Now, people, how can people find me? Well, LinkedIn, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
our website, which is www.c-levelpartners.com, or Google Johnny Lee Reynoso. I got YouTube channel with a lot of good content out there about sales, sales training, sales coaching. And I'm pretty much, open across those platforms, Instagram as well.
Very cool. Again, folks, 23,000 followers. I was blown away this morning. I was getting proud of my 4,000. um, but I just had another question come to me. Do you ever have clients? So you're closing these meetings, you're setting them up, you go to hand them off to them. Do they ever approach you and say, hey, could you do the next step? Could you actually pitch for us our thing, whatever that is, a product, a service?
So, so it's a great question. So we have been asked. We've entertained it in a few sectors, technology and software. Um, Not so much management consulting, because a lot of that has to do with packaging it up in a very unique way that really speaks to the value and as all the work streams, the capabilities, and you don't want to overpromise, underdeliver.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that as of late, we've offered a consulting service along the lines where we have been. It's almost like Salesforce effectiveness. We
Mm-hmm.
we we call it, where we're like supporting them along the way in their meetings. We're coaching them during the meeting and after the meeting, and we do that kind of small segments till there's marked improvement. But look, at the end of the day, if somebody can speak with substance,
Mm-hmm.
we can help architect the behind the scenes so that that opportunity continues to move forward.
Cool.
So if you have the substance and what you need is the framework, we're going to do bam fam, book a meeting from a meeting for you. We're going to get the follow up. We're going to get into proposal stage, and we're going to help you bring it in. So it's very easy for us to work very much in a symbiotic way to make sure we're not leaving any opportunity on the table.
Love it. Love it. How big is your team and what does it take to support your enterprise?
So we're up to in delivery, we're up to almost 22. Operationally, we have, gosh, about 12 to 13 now in behind the scenes. And how big is it? What again?
Just what does it take to support your enterprise?
We are a sales training organization and we're a culture driven firm. And we
Mm,
have 30%, actually, I'm sorry, no more. 40 plus percent is still remote.
okay.
That's okay. We've built it that way. Now we're just growing internally. And, our biggest thing is bringing everybody together as much as possible to constantly build leaders. Look, I had a mentor say to me, you're not a leader until you could build leaders that builds leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole focus is duplicatable systems, duplicatable leadership, process that anyone can follow so we can continue to expand and scale and grow. And we have kind of four pillars we stand by. We're going to outwork everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to out improve everyone so we can out earn everyone. So then, most importantly, we could do the last one, which is outlast everyone. So we always identify ourselves. Are you outworking and out improving so you can out earn and we can outlast? If we're not doing that, we're not living by our core commitment. And that's a problem.
Very cool. Let's be respectful of the time here. We have just a few more minutes. Promise that we'll be off before the top of the hour. How do you see yourself and your team pivoting to stay cutting edge? Or do you simply kind of stay in the lane that you're in?
So ChatGPT, AI, all of this nonsense that's out there, and I call it nonsense. I love it. It's noise. We're in the attention economy, no matter what industry you're in, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
attention is what we're always after.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, what we do is we sell money, right? So in other words, we're going to help you get $10 million in your business for 500,000 in investment, right? So it's our job to deliver that. So my focus is now more than ever, we're a technology firm focused on business development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we were just a business development firm. When you really start to frame that in your business, you start to make decisions that lead us to that outcome. So if you're a technology firm focused on business development, Airbnb, technology firm focused on hospitality, Uber, technology firm
Mm-hmm.
focused on transportation. Dunkin' Donuts gets like 20% of their revenue now from the app, right?
Wow.
Dunkin' now, right? So if you think about that, they're a technology firm focused on food and beverage. They have to think about their business that way. And every restaurant does now. That's why there's all these
Mm-hmm.
things that are out there. So when you think about that, you make different decisions. I think it was Bill Ackman who said that. Somebody said that I heard. Maybe it was somebody else, but at a conference. But the net is, so how do we become that? So will AI ever replace what we do? No. In my opinion, it is impossible to get a high level executive on the phone to articulate the value proposition and to have that person decide that they're going to give you their most valuable possession, which is time. You think about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could buy these executives that we go after. Some of them are making seven-figure salary. On top of that, their stock options. On top of that,
Mm-hmm.
all the bells and whistles. They don't need a meeting with me, right? They're if you we actually did this once a few years ago. We averaged what the average meeting cost was when we were taking an hour of their time to meet with us, to meet with our clients. We took some of the top salaries. Some of them were in the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that they were giving us an hour. Why? Because the value that we were sharing with them was the currency and they
Mm-hmm.
gave us their time, right? So that's the transaction. So when you
Sure.
think about it that way, you look and say, well, how do we optimize that value? How do we improve? And that's where we leverage AI for different tools, knowing how to prompt it correctly to get
Mm-hmm.
information, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
could go into ChatGPT and prompt it to say, if I want to call the EVPs at McKesson or at Medtronic, I would say to ChatGPT, I would say, you're a research analyst and you're focusing on the five top things that Medtronic said in the last two earnings calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, it'll give me that information. Then I would say you're a research analyst and your focus is life sciences, and you want to know what did the top five executives at Medtronic say in different publications and source it, and it'll give me that, right? And then I
Sure.
can even say now create it in a SWOT analysis, and it could give me a SWOT analysis for that. So now I can take that information. Now, what's going to happen is that you got all these millennials, all these younger generations that are going to come in and they're already in, they're going to take that information and create a creative email.
Mm-hmm.
And that works for if you want to grow your business like this,
Yeah.
right? Because while they're writing the emails, guess what we're doing? We're also writing the emails. But at the same time, guess what we're doing? We're picking
Pounding the phones.
and we're doing 150 phone calls, and we have 22 people on the phone doing that. So you can multiply that. And now what? That forced multiplier, as we like to say together,
Yep.
omni-channel approach, we're going to win and we're going to get you in front of. So while they're still waiting for a reply, we already have 3 meetings booked.
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
So we're
Love
leveraging
it.
technology to be cutting edge, but we're not allowing it or even thinking or fooling us that it's going to replace how we go to market. It's impossible with high ticket items. Look, low ticket items, small transactions, very simple. Those folks who are doing that, go and get retrained, learn it, and win.
Commodities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There you have it, folks. Johnny Lee Reinoso. What I love about this conversation is you've created something from nothing. Literally. I mean, your inward passion, your talent, that's not nothing, but you know what I'm saying. You've with a concept, a notion, an approach to the market, you've made a very successful path for yourself. So
Appreciate it.
congrats. My last question to you is, how can people get a hold of you that are interested?
Absolutely. I mean, again, go to our website. You could book a discovery call with us at clevelpartners.com. That's c-levelpartners.com. You could also just Google the name Johnny Lee Reinoso. You could go to the website. I have a website out there. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Variety of different ways, but I am reachable if you send some information or send some questions over my way, and we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for this. I will post your website and that information that you just cited on YouTube, Apple, Podbean, Spotify, LinkedIn, all the above. Johnny Lee, thank you so much, brother. And until next time.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Awesome.